In the world of coin collecting, there are countless stories of ordinary-looking pieces of change turning into something extraordinary, and the 1973 1-cent penny with an error is one of those captivating treasures that takes collectors and casual enthusiasts alike into a journey of history, mystery, and value. Imagine walking through your day, maybe grabbing a coffee, paying with some spare change, and realizing later that the penny you just handed over could have been worth anywhere between $58,000 and a staggering $130,000. That thought alone is enough to make anyone pause and wonder just how much history and wealth might be hiding in their pocket or in an old jar of coins tucked away in a drawer at home. This 1973 penny, seemingly simple and unassuming, becomes a character in a much larger story when it bears an error that transforms it from common circulation to an extraordinary rarity. And it is in this transformation where the real magic of coin collecting begins to reveal itself. When we think about coins from the early 1970s, the United States Mint was pushing millions upon millions of pennies into circulation each year. They were struck primarily in copper, a composition that would remain until the early 1980s before being switched largely to zinc. The penny had the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, a face that had been etched into the hearts of Americans since it first appeared in 1909 to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth. On the reverse, during 1973, you still had the Lincoln Memorial design created by Frank Gasparo, a design that carried immense symbolic weight for a nation that often looked back to Lincoln's leadership during times of uncertainty. This coin was something nearly every American touched on a daily basis. Yet within this sea of sameness, errors emerged, and those errors are what fuel both mystery and immense value. Error coins are essentially mistakes born from the minting process, but what might look like flaws to some become sources of fascination for collectors. In 1973, errors could come in many forms. It might be a doubled die obverse where the lettering or numbers appear doubled, giving a striking and unusual appearance to the coin. It might be an off-center strike where the design shifts awkwardly toward the edge, leaving parts blank. Or even a wrong planchet error where the coin was mistakenly struck on a blank meant for another denomination. Each of these mistakes was rare, and in their rarity lay their worth. For the collector's market, rarity plus condition plus demand equals value, and with the 1973 penny error, those three factors aligned in a way that propelled prices into the tens of thousands. Picture a collector discovering one of these rare 1973 errors at a coin show. He pulls out a magnifying glass, tilts the penny under the light, and notices a faint but unmistakable doubling in the date or the motto, "In God We Trust." In that moment, the coin stops being just a penny. It becomes an artifact, a piece of history frozen in metal, and more importantly, a potential fortune. The thrill of such a discovery is part of what makes coin collecting so endlessly engaging. You could hold in your hand something that looks insignificant to the untrained, yet carries the potential to fetch anywhere from $58,000 to an incredible $130,000 at auction. Those numbers aren't just figures. They're life-changing sums tied to a piece of copper that once passed through grocery store registers or sat quietly in someone's change jar. But why do collectors pay so much for these errors? The answer lies in both scarcity and storytelling. Scarcity is obvious. Only a handful of these coins slip through the mint's quality control and make it into circulation. Storytelling, however, is less tangible but just as powerful. Each error coin has a narrative that makes it unique. The mint wasn't supposed to let it happen, yet here it is, a physical reminder that even the most precise systems sometimes falter. And when that mistake is discovered decades later, it brings with it a sense of uncovering hidden treasure. Collectors love to tell and retell these stories, passing them down through generations, cementing the coin's legend, and boosting its desirability. The year 1973 itself was a turbulent one for the United States. The Vietnam War was drawing toward its conclusion, the Watergate scandal was unfolding, and the nation was experiencing economic challenges. Against this backdrop, the humble penny remained a quiet constant in the lives of Americans. To think that in this era of change, mistakes at the mint created coins that decades later would command extraordinary prices adds yet another layer of fascination. It's as though the errors themselves captured a snapshot of imperfection during a time when the country was grappling with its own imperfections. That kind of symbolic resonance only strengthens the allure of the coin for collectors. Imagine the auction room when one of these 1,973 penny errors comes up for bidding. The air is thick with anticipation, collectors and dealers sitting at the edge of their seats, each one eager to add a rarity to their collection. The auctioneer begins, calling out the opening bid, and the numbers climb quickly. 50,000. 55,000. The excitement builds as bidders lock eyes, neither willing to back down. Then it crosses into the territory that makes headlines: 58,000, 60,000, 75,000. Each increase reflects not just monetary value but also passion, the thrill of competition, and the undeniable allure of rarity. By the time the gavel falls at $130,000, the room erupts in applause, and the story of that particular coin becomes a part of numismatic history. That energy, that intensity, is what keeps collectors chasing after the next great find. For the casual person hearing these numbers, the immediate reaction might be disbelief. How could a penny be worth over $100,000? But when you start to consider the principles of supply and demand, the artistry and history behind minting, and the psychological thrill of owning something so rare, the value begins to make sense. It's not just about the copper and the error itself. It's about owning a piece of a story that few others can claim. That is why collectors continue to pay astronomical sums for coins that most people overlook. Even more fascinating is that many of these treasures remain undiscovered. Somewhere in old coffee cans, tucked away in attics, lying at the bottom of dusty drawers, there may still be 1973 pennies with these rare errors waiting to be found. Every day, coins are passed from hand to hand in transactions across the country, and among those ordinary coins might lurk extraordinary value. It's this sense of possibility, the chance that the next penny you examine might be worth a small fortune, that keeps the excitement alive. And it's why collectors and treasure hunters alike scrutinize every date, every mint mark, every tiny detail with such intense focus. Consider too the impact of condition. A 1973 penny error discovered in well-circulated form might already command tens of thousands, but if found in pristine uncirculated condition, the value skyrockets. Collectors place immense importance on grade, and when rarity meets top condition, the outcome is astonishing. That's why some of the record prices between $58,000 and $130,000 are attached to coins that not only bear the error but have survived decades without significant wear. They are essentially time capsules, untouched by the passage of countless hands, preserved in a way that elevates their desirability to the highest levels. The market for error coins also thrives on stories of unexpected discoveries. Ordinary people, sometimes children sorting through jars of pennies, stumble upon a coin that doesn't look quite right. They notice the doubling, the shift, or the unusual strike. They take it to a dealer, often out of curiosity rather than expectation, only to learn they are holding something potentially worth more than a luxury car. Stories like these fuel the imagination and inspire others to take a closer look at their own pocket change. And it's in these stories that the magic of coin collecting truly comes alive, bridging generations and creating moments of wonder. The 1973 penny error has also become an important educational tool. Teachers, historians, and collectors use it to explain how coins are made, how mistakes occur, and how such mistakes, rather than being discarded, can achieve legendary status. It teaches patience, attention to detail, and the idea that even the smallest things can carry immense significance. A coin that may have once been dismissed as flawed or imperfect becomes instead a prized possession, valued far beyond its face. As time continues to pass, the number of these error coins in circulation only decreases. Some are bought up by serious collectors and stored securely, some are lost or damaged beyond recognition, and others remain hidden, waiting for discovery. This natural reduction in available examples further drives up the value of the remaining pieces. And as demand remains strong, the price ceiling continues to rise. The numbers we see today, $58,000 to $130,000, may one day seem modest compared to what future collectors are willing to pay. For those interested in pursuing these coins, knowledge is power. The story of the 1982 1-cent penny error is one of the most fascinating and exciting chapters in modern coin collecting, because it perfectly combines mystery, history, and the thrill of life-changing value hidden in plain sight. At first glance, the penny from 1982 looks just like the billions of others that pass through hands in grocery stores, parking meters, or piggy banks, But beneath that ordinary appearance lies a tale of transition and confusion that gave rise to some of the most valuable coins ever to leave the United States Mint. To imagine that something so small, so common, could hold a secret that turns a single cent into a fortune of $50,000, or even a staggering $120,000, is enough to make anyone stop and take a second look at their pocket change. The year 1982 was unlike any other for the penny. Up until that point, pennies had been made primarily of copper, but rising copper prices made the cost of producing each penny more than its actual face value. The government made the decision to switch the penny's composition from solid copper to a zinc core with a thin copper coating. That decision, while logical for economics, led to one of the most complex and confusing years in penny history. Because the transition occurred during 1982, the mint struck pennies in both copper and zinc. Add to that the fact that they produced multiple variations of the date, including both large date and small date designs from different mints, and suddenly you have a year overflowing with possibilities for collectors. And where confusion reigns, error coins are bound to appear. Error coins thrive on mistakes, and in 1982 those mistakes could happen at multiple points in the minting process. You had instances where copper planchets were used when they should have been replaced with zinc. You had transitional errors where a coin might carry characteristics of both types, and you had double dies and other striking irregularities that turned everyday pennies into rarities. For collectors, these errors became the holy grail of modern coin hunting, because while billions of 1982 pennies exist, only a handful of true transitional or error pieces survive. And in the world of numismatics, rarity drives demand, and demand drives price. That is how the legend of the 1982 penny error began to grow, capturing the imagination of collectors everywhere. Imagine for a moment finding one of these rare 1982 errors in a coin roll or a jar tucked away in a closet. To the untrained eye it might look like any other penny, but a keen collector knows to check the weight. A copper penny weighs about 3.1 grams, while a zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams. That small difference in weight is what reveals the true identity of the coin. A 1982 penny with the wrong weight signals a transitional error, a coin that should not exist, a coin that the mint never intended to release. Discovering one of these is like striking gold, because in the world of coin auctions such a piece can sell for prices ranging from $50,000 to as high as $120,000 depending on condition, rarity, and demand. The thrill of such a discovery is impossible to overstate. The psychology behind the value is as compelling as the coins themselves. Collectors aren't just buying a piece of copper or zinc. They are buying a story, a piece of history that represents a pivotal moment in American currency. The 1982 penny error tells the story of economic challenges, government decisions, and human error at the mint, all captured in a single coin. It is a reminder that history is not just written in books but stamped into the metal that circulates in our pockets. Owning such a coin allows a collector to feel connected to that moment in time in a way that is both tangible and powerful. That emotional connection, combined with the mathematical rarity, is what pushes prices to astonishing heights in auction halls across the country. The appearance of a 1982 penny error sparks excitement that few other modern coins can generate. The auctioneer presents the coin, the crowd leans in, and the bidding begins. The numbers climb quickly: 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. The bidders know that they are competing for a treasure that only a handful of people on Earth can claim to own. When the hammer finally falls at $50,000, the room buzzes with energy. And on the rarest occasions, when the condition is flawless and the error undeniable, the final price can reach that unbelievable $120,000 mark. At that moment, the coin ceases to be just metal. It becomes a legend, an icon of numismatic history. For everyday people hearing about these coins, the story can sound almost unbelievable. How can a penny be worth more than a luxury car, more than a college education, even more than some homes? Yet the explanation is surprisingly simple. Rarity plus demand equals value, and when the story attached to that rarity resonates with collectors, the value multiplies. The 1982 penny error is the perfect storm of those factors. It is rare because of the transitional mistakes during that year of change, it has demand because collectors love the hunt and the story, and it has history because it represents a major shift in U.S. coinage. All of those ingredients together create a recipe for astronomical prices. The most fascinating aspect is that many of these coins are still out there waiting to be found. Every day people cash in jars of pennies, roll coins for the bank, or pass loose change across counters, never realizing that among those ordinary coins could be a small fortune. The idea that a penny sitting unnoticed in a drawer could pay off a mortgage or change someone's life is what keeps the passion for coin hunting alive. Collectors and treasure hunters alike know that persistence and attention to detail can pay off in extraordinary ways, and the 1982 penny error is the ultimate prize. Condition plays a crucial role in determining just how valuable a discovery will be. A 1982 penny error found in circulated condition, showing signs of wear and handling, might still bring in tens of thousands of dollars. But one discovered in pristine, uncirculated condition with sharp details and minimal flaws can command far higher prices. Professional grading services evaluate these coins carefully, and a high grade combined with a significant error is the magic formula for record-breaking auction results. That is why stories of coins selling for $120,000 are not myths but real documented events that inspire others to keep searching. The 1982 penny error also serves as a teaching tool for new collectors. It shows them that knowledge matters. Simply knowing the difference between a copper and a zinc penny, learning how to weigh coins accurately, and paying attention to design variations can mean the difference between passing over a fortune and recognizing a treasure. It encourages patience, research, and a keen eye skills that are invaluable in numismatics and rewarding in many other areas of life as well. There are also countless stories of ordinary people stumbling upon these treasures. A father helping his child build a penny collection might notice the weight difference. A retiree sorting through old change might spot a detail that doesn't look quite right. They take the coin to a dealer or send it for grading and soon discover that what they thought was just an interesting penny is actually worth tens of thousands. These stories not only highlight the enduring excitement of coin collecting, but also fuel the hope that anyone, at any time, could make a discovery that changes their life as time goes on. The number of available error coins decreases. Collectors buy them, lock them away in safes, or donate them to museums. Others are lost to damage or simply never discovered. This natural reduction only increases the value of those that remain. The laws of supply and demand ensure that coins already worth $50,000 to $120,000 today may climb even higher in the years to come. For collectors, that potential future appreciation adds yet another incentive to hunt for these coins and to pay premium prices when they appear on the market. But beyond the money, there is the pure joy of the chase. Coin collecting is as much about the journey as it is about the reward. The hours spent searching through rolls of pennies, the thrill of spotting something unusual, the satisfaction of research and discovery. All of these make the hobby deeply fulfilling. And when the reward is a 1982 penny error that carries the potential of life-changing value, the passion becomes even more intense. Collectors don't just collect coins. They collect stories, adventures, and the possibility of uncovering hidden treasure, so the 1982 1-cent penny error is more than just an oddity. It is a symbol of how small mistakes can lead to extraordinary outcomes, how ordinary objects can hide extraordinary value, and how history can be preserved in the most unexpected ways. It is a coin that inspires collectors, excites treasure hunters, and fascinates historians. It is a reminder that sometimes the most powerful treasures are the ones we overlook, the tiny pieces of change we carry without a second thought. The next time you hold a penny in your hand, especially one dated 1982, pause for a moment. Think about the weight, look closely at the details, and imagine the possibility that you could be holding a treasure worth $50,000 or even as much as $120,000. That is the magic of the 1982 penny error. It turns the ordinary into the extraordinary, the common into the rare, and a single cent into a legend that will continue to captivate collectors for generations to come. In the year 2000, the United States Mint produced millions upon millions of pennies, coins that were meant to pass quietly from hand to hand, buying small things and filling pockets and change jars across the nation. At first glance, these pennies looked identical to one another, each bearing the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been a fixture of American life for decades. Yet within that ocean of ordinary copper-plated zinc coins, a few escaped with mistakes, And those mistakes transformed them into some of the most fascinating and valuable pieces in modern numismatics. Imagine, just for a moment, that you reached into your pocket one morning and pulled out a penny from the year 2000, only to later discover that this humble coin wasn't worth 1 cent at all but instead carried a value anywhere from $40,000 to as much as $110,000. The idea feels unbelievable, and yet it is very real, very possible, and it has happened to collectors who looked closely enough to notice the extraordinary hiding in the ordinary. To understand why the 2000 penny error has become so sought after, we need to go back to the basics of how coins are made. Each penny begins its life as a blank disc, called a planchet, which is fed into the coining press where immense pressure forces the engraved designs of the dies onto the metal. Under normal circumstances, this process is precise, flawless, and repeatable millions of times over. But sometimes mistakes happen. A die might have a doubled image that imprints twice onto the coin, producing letters or numbers that appear shadowed or doubled. A blank meant for a different denomination might slip into the machine, resulting in a wrong planchet error. Or the strike might be off-center, shifting Lincoln's portrait awkwardly away from its intended position. Each of these errors is rare, and because of that rarity, collectors assign them extraordinary value. The 2000 penny error is especially fascinating because it represents a bridge between the older era of copper pennies and the modern era of zinc coins. By 2000, pennies were already being struck in copper-plated zinc rather than solid copper, a change made back in 1982 to save the government money as copper prices rose. Many people still expect pennies from around the turn of the millennium to be common and without much interest, but this is exactly what makes the discovery of an error penny from 2000 so thrilling. It was a year when few collectors paid much attention to the cent, assuming it to be unremarkable. And that lack of attention meant some errors slipped by unnoticed until sharp-eyed collectors spotted them years later. Picture yourself at a coin show, walking past tables filled with gleaming silver dollars, shimmering gold coins, and boxes of loose change. You reach into a bin of common pennies, thinking there's nothing special there, just hundreds of brown and coppery faces of Lincoln staring back. But then you notice something odd about one. Maybe the date looks doubled, the numbers ever so slightly shifted, giving the impression of shadows. Maybe the letters in the word Liberty look thicker, bolder, almost as if someone traced them twice. Or maybe the entire strike is off, with the portrait sliding toward the rim, leaving a blank crescent of metal on the other side. In that moment, what was worth a cent becomes something entirely different. In that moment, you realize you could be holding a coin worth not just a few dollars or a few $100s, but possibly tens of thousands. That is the allure of the 2000 penny error. Auction houses have played a critical role in cementing the legend of this error coin. Stories circulate of collectors bringing in what they believed to be a minor curiosity only to have the coin authenticated, graded, and later sold for breathtaking sums. The bidding begins modestly, a few thousand here, a few thousand there, but as word spreads about the rarity and the condition of the piece, the energy in the room escalates. Suddenly the numbers are climbing past 10,000, 20,000, and then 40,000. And just when it seems like the competition might slow down, determined bidders drive the price higher still, until the gavel falls at numbers that make headlines. $110,000 for a penny that slipped through the cracks of quality control 2 decades earlier. That is not just a sale, that is a story, a legend, a piece of numismatic history that ensures the 2000 penny error will forever be talked about among collectors. But why such intense interest? The answer lies not just in rarity but also in the sense of discovery. Error coins, unlike carefully crafted commemoratives or deliberately limited issues, are accidents. They are products of chance, flukes in a system designed to be perfect. And because of that, each error coin feels like a secret, a mystery waiting to be uncovered. Collectors love the hunt. The possibility that something overlooked for years could suddenly reveal itself as extraordinary. With the 2000 penny error, that possibility becomes especially thrilling because the coin is so recent, so familiar. It's not an ancient relic or a colonial artifact. It's something many people remember spending in their everyday lives, never suspecting that a few examples could carry values that rival luxury cars or even small homes. Consider the condition of these coins as well. A circulated 2000 penny with an error might already be valuable. But when one is found in pristine, uncirculated condition, the price explodes. Collectors prize perfection, and when perfection combines with rarity, the result is astronomical value. That is why some of the most famous sales of the 2000 penny era landed in the range between $40,000 and $110,000. The coin wasn't just rare, it was also beautifully preserved, as if it had been waiting for the right moment to reveal its worth. The 2000 penny era also sparks something deeper, a reflection on the nature of mistakes and value. In everyday life, we often think of mistakes as something negative, something to be discarded or corrected. Yet, in the world of coin collecting, mistakes become treasures. They are celebrated, studied, and pursued with passion. A double die that once might have been seen as a flaw is now a mark of uniqueness, a fingerprint of imperfection that elevates the coin above all others. In that sense, the 2000 penny era tells a story not just about minting but about how we assign meaning and worth to the things around us. Imagine a family discovering one of these coins while going through an old jar of change inherited from a relative. They sit at the kitchen table, pouring out hundreds of coins, laughing at the idea of finding anything valuable. But then, among the pile, one penny stands out. They look closer, notice the unusual features, and decide to check online. The more they read, the more their excitement grows. Could this be one of those rare error pennies worth tens of thousands? They take it to a dealer, who confirms the unbelievable truth. In that moment, a coin that had sat forgotten for years becomes a ticket to opportunity, whether that means paying off debt, funding education, or simply holding on to a tangible piece of history. Stories like this remind us why the 2000 penny era captures imagination so powerfully. Even the historical context adds depth to the allure. The year 2000 marked the turn of the millennium, a symbolic moment for the entire world. People celebrated new beginnings, reflected on the past century, and looked toward the future with both excitement and uncertainty. To have a coin from that very year carry such rare and valuable errors feels almost poetic, as if the imperfections of the mint echoed the imperfect yet hopeful nature of that transition in history. Collectors often look for meaning in the pieces they own, and the 2000 penny era provides plenty of symbolic weight along with its tangible value. As time passes, the supply of these coins will only shrink. Some have already been secured in collections, stored away in protective holders, never to circulate again. Others may remain hidden, waiting for discovery, but the longer they go unnoticed, the less likely they are to appear. This natural scarcity means that prices are unlikely to fall. In fact, many experts believe the $40,000 to $110,000 range we see today may be just the beginning, and future auctions could push the numbers even higher as competition intensifies among collectors. The fascinating thing is that anyone could, in theory, still find one. Every day, pennies continue to circulate, pass through cash registers, drop into vending machines, and clink at the bottom of pockets and purses. Among those billions of coins, the possibility exists that one of them is a 2000 penny error waiting to be discovered. That possibility fuels the passion of collectors and dreamers alike. It's the reason people still check their change carefully, still sift through jars of coins, still believe that maybe, just maybe, they could be the next to stumble upon a fortune hidden in plain sight. And so the 2000 penny error continues to hold its place as one of the most intriguing modern rarities in the coin world. It stands as a reminder that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value, that mistakes can become treasures, and that history can be found not just in grand monuments or famous artifacts but also in the tiniest details of everyday life.